I turn my camera on, I cut my fingers on the way of slipping away. I turn my feelings on, you made me untouchable for life. Yeah, and you wasn't polite. It hit me like a song.
All right, welcome to podcast number 113. Podcast 113 this week on the Texas Hemp Show. I'm Russell with the Texas Hemp Reporter magazine and host of the Texas Hemp Show podcast. And good to be with you guys this week. We just dropped a new magazine since our last show. So the new issue of the Texas Hemp Reporter magazine is out statewide. So we're glad to have those out. And among our friends there in all of the CBD and smoke shops around the state. So those have dropped and are now in Houston, the Rio Grande Valley, Dallas, San Antonio, as well as Austin. So very excited to get those out as we are in the middle of the 88th legislative session. And hopefully our lawmakers will get some good bills in front of Dan Patrick this year and see what he decides to do with things. But joining us on the program for some legal counsel and opinion is this week on the show is Andrea Steele from Frost, Brown, and Todd joining us. Andrea, always a friend of the Texas Hemp Show podcast. Thank you for joining us on the show today. I appreciate your time with us this time, Andrea. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thanks for having me on again. It is always a pleasure to join with you on the show.
Yeah, as well. But Andrea, thanks for being a part of the show. What should we start off with? We could talk about DSHS enforcement. We could talk about legislative bills, but let's talk about what happened yesterday with the DEA and their ruling. I guess this is federal.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's gotten. I mean, I think I put a post up on LinkedIn. Yesterday, the day before, and thousands already have looked at it. So that's a pretty hot topic. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
So essentially, the DEA responded to an inquiry from another attorney, Rod Kite. Anybody in the hemp cannabinoid space is probably familiar with him. And he, about several months ago, sent a request to the DEA asking if THCO acetate that's derived from hemp, is that considered a Schedule I substance? Is it considered synthetic? How does the DEA view it? And so they just got back to him. It took a very long time, but they just responded to him and said that they do consider Delta 8 THCO and Delta 9 THCO to be synthetics and not fall under the definition of hemp, even if they are derived from hemp. So that added a layer of complexity to what we consider falls within the definition of hemp and what doesn't, or added an additional consideration that for us to think about when, we as lawyers are advising, or just people out in the public or businesses, especially that are in this space, what they're looking for and what to, kind of some guidance on where we think the federal government and then probably state and local will follow suit.
So where are we now? Are they going to enforce this soon? Are we some time away from seeing any kind of enforcement with this?
I don't think so. So basically what they're saying is that THCO has never been considered hemp. It's not like this is a new thing. Okay. This is new information to the public, but it's not new to the DEA. This is not a new rule or a new law. It's their interpretation of current law. And so with that, enforcement could have already been happening. Investigations could have already been going on and likely are. And then as far as enforcement, it can happen at any time, because this is not, we've decided that this new product is, now illegal. So you've got some time before you have to get it off your shelves. Like, that's not it. And there's a lot of people asking those questions, do we have a period of amnesty where we can get it off our shelves? No, there is no amnesty period. This is illegal. It is a Schedule I controlled substance under the definition of tetrahydrocannabinol. Considered as synthetic, not considered hemp.
Well, that's huge for states like Texas, because many of the cannabis states, Andrea, have already made moves to keep the Delta products off the shelves because they're strong cannabis states. But so what if I'm a retailer, what do I do now?
I'm can't give legal advice to people who are not my clients. I would just say that if anybody has those products in their possession, they are holding on to something that the DEA has publicly stated is a Schedule I controlled substance.
Well, David Sergie is also going to be on the program after you, but I wanted to get David to chime in on. Let's go to David as we welcome him to podcast number 113 of the Texas Hemp Show.
Hey
there, David. You may have heard a little bit of our conversation there. I thought I'd get you to chime in on this. You kind of made me aware of this yesterday when we were talking about another suit that you were involved in. But very slippery slope for retailers.
I would agree. And as Andrea said, I don't think we can give individual legal advice, but I think we've all got the retailers have some real severe problems they have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, you've got hundreds and thousands of retailers in this Lone Star State that have inventory with this, and this is at a really interesting time, because I just published in the magazine, David, the enforcement letter that Dishes just put out for March 1st on another matter, and now you have Andrea, the DEA ruling in on this now. So, are we taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back here federally? I thought maybe we might get a little reprieve, I guess, from the federal side as a Texan, but this presents challenges for Texas retailers as well.
I think that what we're going to see here is that I think Dishes probably will step up enforcement on that. And they mentioned in their notice that they're going to step up the enforcement on the smokable hemp ban beginning in March. Like I said, this THCO, that's probably going to be definitely seeing some traction. I think one of the things that's probably important, I wish people and retailers and businesses would come get legal guidance before they start doing things. Because I know if anybody would have talked to me about THCO in advance of selling, I would have strongly cautioned, because I don't think this ruling or this guidance, this opinion letter guidance, is really new or a surprise to attorneys that are well-versed in the cannabinoid space, because many of us have been saying for a while, this is not naturally occurring, although the same argument could apply, so to speak, for why any of the other hemp-derived cannabinoids would fit under the definition of hemp. The fact that this one is not in nature, or all the science so far that we know says it's not in nature, that one puts it in a little bit of now it was in a higher risk category, and now we have this guidance from the DEA that says it is a Schedule I controlled substance.
Let me chime in for a second, because I think Andrea is exactly right. This isn't groundbreaking. The conservative manufacturers haven't been manufacturing these derivative products. They have been going with the tried and true. They haven't been trying to, break that barrier and press to that next level. And, I know that Andrea's clients have probably gotten a lot of the same advice that my clients would have gotten, which is don't do that. Don't press the envelope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, do you anticipate your phone's really going to be ringing, Andrea, here with this ruling yesterday? I mean, David, there's what we recently received we downloaded the list earlier this year or late December for just the retailers in the state. There was 6,500, I believe, at least permit holders for the Dishes side for those permits.
That tells me that there's a whole lot of people. That tells me a whole lot of people don't know they're supposed to be registered.
I just left some magazines in a store.
Yeah.
And I think Andrea makes a really good point. If you're going to be in this business, you have to get the right regulatory advice from someone like Andrea, myself, or there are other people out there that know what we're talking about and can give the right advice to keep you out of jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, what do you think percentage wise for retailers that are out there that, actually pay for this legal advice and keep you guys like you on retainer? And it's with that many 60, I think it was 6,700, Andrea, of the state's retailers, are all licensed to sell the products with dishes. But that's there's quite a bit of learning curve still to be had here.
There are some pretty major issues, and you've got to be very careful step by step as we move in the direction of mainstreaming these products, and we have to make sure that they are in compliance with both state and federal law.
Okay, and Andrea, I know we're short on time with you, but I did want to get you to chime in. Maybe have you seen any movement or traction with legislative bills that are being put forth by legislators here in Texas as we're in the middle of the 88th legislature?
So actually some bills got moved to committee just in the last couple of days.
Okay.
So there's starting to be some movement. The committees were just assigned recently, and so there will start to be movement now. Of course, I'm sure lots of people are concerned about anything going on with hemp, and if anybody's been paying attention to what's been going on or what's been transpiring so far with the legislature, is Senator Perry has filed 2 bills relating to hemp. One is about the agricultural side, and the other is on the consumable hemp product side. Senator Perry is also the chair of the agricultural committee in the Senate. I'm not saying the name right, but it essentially water, agriculture, and rural affairs. And his 2 bills have already been moved to his committee. Okay. So I definitely expect to see movement on that one, and hopefully there will be some engagement with the public about some issues in the bill that's on the consumable hemp side, which basically says that synthetically derived THCs or synthetically derived hemp products that have synthetically derived THCs would be banned, and kicks it to dishes to create a definition, and that could be really problematic, just because there's so much confusion around it.
Any other senators putting anything on, whether it's cannabis or has there been any movement from anyone on a doctor's discretion on that side of levels of THC in this legislature session yet? So
Click, who is the author of the Texas Compassionate Use Act, her bill, she just recently introduced a bill a couple of weeks ago that would increase the cap from 1% to 5%. And then it would allow dishes to come up with any other debilitating disease that it wants to put on the list as a qualifying condition by rule. So we don't have to wait every 2 years for a new condition to be added. So hopefully that bill will get some movement. And, we're still pretty early in the session. Yeah. So there's a lot of changes that could happen. Tons of bills. There's probably more than 40 that reference, cannabis, hemp, THC, regarding, legalizing a constitutional amendment to legalize adult use in the state, broad expansion of the compassionate use program. There's a lot that's been filed, but not many are likely going to get movement.
Well, we're still early in this session. We'll go ahead and take a commercial break. I'll let you get on to your next meeting, Andrea. Thank you for giving us an update. How can folks put you on their calendar and give you a call, Andrea, with Frost, Brown, and Todd over there? How can folks reach you?
Absolutely. So my cell phone number is 281-755-3850. My email address is asteel, ASTEEL, @FBTlaw, F like Frost, B like Brown, T like Todd. You can email me, text me, call me, and we can set up some time for a call. Hit me up on LinkedIn or, check out the website of the firm.
Well, this is a great show if you're a retailer.
So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Good to see
All right. Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate your time. This is a great show this week. Got two of the best here in the state joining us on the legal front. We'll be back. We'll take a commercial break and we'll be back with our guest, David Sergie, on the other side. It's the Texas Hemp Show, podcast 113. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, this is Cheech Marin, and you're listening to the Texas Hemp Show.
Why take a chance with your hemp grow? Join Hemp Plan and avoid the risk. TPS Labs' exclusive hemp monitoring program. Hemp Plan members get one-on-one consulting from knowledgeable consultants who are available when you need them most. If you want to take the guesswork out of growing hemp and focus on what matters most, call TPS Lab today and ask for your free consultation. Take the next step to a successful harvest. Visit tpslab.com or call today at 956-383-0739.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to the Texas Hemp Show.
We took the best journalists from politics, health, innovations, cuisine, business, travel, agriculture, and then we put weed in it. Welcome to Weed and Whiskey News. Weed and Whiskey News. News with a twist.
Do you qualify for medical marijuana? Texas allows medical-grade products with THC. If you have a diagnosis of PTSD, neuropathy of any kind, including diabetic, any cancer or seizure disorder, Dr. A at Good Earth MMJ Clinic will help. You believe in cannabis's medical benefits, as do we. VA veterans with PTSD do not fear, as your benefits are protected with a Dr. A's prescription in Texas. Please visit goodearth210.com for all details and to book an appointment. Next day appointments available. We're here to get you well, not high. That's goodearth210.com.
The Texas Hemp Reporter is available free at over 1,000 CBD and smoke shops across Texas. McAllen, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Lubbock, and San Antonio. Texas lawmakers will be in session this year to improve or alter laws on cannabis products. So stay tuned and informed this legislative season with the Texas Hemp Show podcast and the Texas Hemp Reporter magazine. Would you like to host the Texas Hemp Show podcast at your business or special event? Now booking live broadcasts from your location with our new demo vehicle, the Texas Green Machine. Email Russell at TexasHempReporter@gmail.com. Now back to the show with your host, Russell Dowden.
All right. Welcome back to the Texas Hemp Show, podcast number 113 this week here. I'm Russell with the Texas Hemp Reporter magazine. Again, the February-March issue just dropped at smoke shop CBD stores statewide. Those are available all throughout the state of Texas and making their way around the community. So very big week with announcements from the feds this side with the DEA ruling on the D8, D9 controlled substance. Our guest, thank you to Andrea Steele chiming in this week, but we'll jump right back to our friend David Sergie from Sergie Law as well, joining us here on the Texas Hemp Show. So a nice little transition. I was hoping that the two of you guys might get to say hi and get you both on there. But David, that's big news, man. And just makes it tough for retailers, to understand and navigate these waters when we've got the state of Texas making moves on enforcing and now the federal side. It's tricky waters, man. You got to have a good attorney in this day and age.
Well, I'll tell you, people like Andrea and myself, we stay abreast of the law. We stay abreast of the recent developments. And that's what our clients pay us to do. And at the end of the day, any market, there are always going to be changes. And these changes are systemic to our industry. We're a growing industry. And some things are surprising and some things are not. And like I said earlier, and I think Andrea is making the point, this DEA letter really to those of us in the know. And we've been telling our clients this for a long time. Don't sell the O. This is essentially what the DEA said. And this is what people within the DEA have been talking about. You go to trade shows, this is what people are talking about.
Yeah.
So now it's been formalized.
Yeah, they had the what was it, David? It was, I think, the Champs event in Vegas the year before last. They had a incursion where there was members rated that were attending that event, and I don't know it. I think that was in 2021, I believe, when they had some.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was arrest made, but there was product seized, at least in the 2021 show.
And the thing is, we can't be pushing the envelope. I think that's the most important message that at least I have is, in a conservative state like Texas, in a place like that we can't be pushing the envelope. We have to be marching slow and steady and make sure that every step we take is legitimate. And so, at least our clients, that's what we tell them. Even if our clients don't want to hear something, we'd rather be cautious than have to go visit them at the local sheriff's department.
Well, and sometimes you take on these cases. I was reading one from you the other day. I got that. I read the whole 19 pages, David, of the current one. And I don't know if we could talk on that. Can we talk about that case or just mention what happened? And
sure. In very, very general terms, without going into specifics, we had a retailer that, as far as we could tell, was following all of the advising, all of the law, doing what they're supposed to do. And you had what we think, in our opinion, was a road cop who decided he knew better. And there was a raid. People were arrested. One particular individual who happened to have been on parole, spent 6 months in jail approximately on a parole hold, and ultimately was released. All the charges were dropped and product was seized. Some of it was returned, and we're holding that particular municipality accountable. We filed a federal lawsuit, and we're looking forward to vindicating our clients' rights in that.
Yeah.
I know there are other similar cases that we're contemplating bringing. And there are people that have done the right thing, that have followed the law, that have taken the time to do it right. And they have wound up being arrested, and their businesses, their lives have been destroyed. And we're there to hold people to account. We're there to hold the government to account.
Well, it certainly, it just goes to, it speaks to the level of training that these, whether it's rural, it seems to happen sometimes more in the rural cities, the rural towns. But, we've got to have better training for our law enforcement to know what the law is. And when folks are operating their business with legal, following the legal guidelines, and law enforcement is just not properly trained on recognizing what products are legal and not legal. I noticed that in that particular case I was reading yesterday, David, there was just like a ton of officers named. Like not one officer stepped up to take accountability for, not one of them knew the law. It was like quite a few of the law enforcement officers were mentioned, and it was just, nobody had stepped up to be accountable for the law.
The thing is, in smaller jurisdictions, the training isn't appropriate. It's behind the times, and they're struggling to catch up. I'm not saying excusing it, but that's just a simple fact of life. And law enforcement officers that are properly trained, that try to inform their departments, are sometimes being punished. I know a school district north of Austin where a officer wound up having to leave because they were arresting kids for legal behavior. Now, whether it should be legal or not is another question, but it was legal behavior. And these charges are having to be dismissed, and this law enforcement officer had to leave. And unfortunately, we have to change the mindset. It's part of a national movement to change the mindset of our police officers so that our police officers are there to work with the community, not just to score points. And that's
David,
community policing.
I see this a lot on social media posts, videos. There's a lot of folks out there doing what's now called auditing of the police, and they go out and they just film right out in the public, which is perfectly legal. And many, I think that it's getting around out there to law enforcement that, you can't just come up to anybody and ask him to stop filming you. There's right to privacy rights and First Amendment rights, and the folks are standing up to law enforcement, even in little ways like this in rural Alabama, David. So you're starting to see that the cops are being challenged on their authority of measures, even if it's just videotaping.
Well, the funny thing is, with the number of closed circuit TVs and video surveillance we have at stores, outside of stores, it is part of the enforcement mechanism both ways. We are auditing the cops, and we're also auditing behavior that shouldn't happen. And so, as we're making sure people don't break and enter into our stores, and, we're also wind up catching people doing things they shouldn't do. And so that's part of life. And police officers, every one of us, is going to be held to account, and should be.
Yeah, we absolutely should be. What is new? What's coming up for you? Anything going on politically or moving? What's got your attention here? Anything with the 88th legislature? I know I asked Andrea to comment on a bill or two, but what stands out on your mind as we are in this legislative session?
Well, I think that, the lobby team that works with groups that I work with, we're focused on defending naturally derived hemp products and cannabinoid products. We want to work within the Farm Bill. We want to work to make sure that products that veterans need, products that medical patients need, are available if that's what the individual wants to use. We're there to make sure that there are alternatives to opioids. And it just boggles my mind that people in the legislature might want a veteran to go use an opioid and wind up addicted, as opposed to something that works for that particular veteran or that particular patient.
And the rate of suicide for our veterans coming home is ridiculous, and you would think that some more natural medicines would be available to them instead of some of these crazy pharmaceuticals that they've got them on. Any idea of the Senator Perry's agriculture bill that Andrea mentioned? I know that's probably going on to the feed side, maybe, and kind of seeing where agriculture, where those products can be maybe implemented into agriculture and livestock. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see that one. I have not followed these bills because I was just putting the magazine to bed recently. So, but was wondering if you'd heard or seen anything on what entailed in Perry's bill at all.
Well, part of the thing is that this is the first shot, and the bill that's out there really is sort of out there for public consumption. But what you really have to look at is, what is a committee substitute going to be? What is it that's actually going to be considered? And more often than not, at least my experience, the first bill looks absolutely nothing like the committee substitute.
That's right.
And so, this bill, I think, is kind of for show, and I want to see what the real bill is. And I'm hoping this time that they actually properly notice the hearing, that they allow all the stakeholders to appear, and that it's not done in the dead of night and put in something that's not text searchable like happened last time.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes, some of the things changed at the very last minute in committee. I believe last time is what you're referring to. Well, hopefully we get some productive measures through, and something good goes on to the desk of the lieutenant governor's office. I don't know what else is pending on. We've got legislative session going on. A lot of moving parts happening right now with cannabis. Federally,
I was going to say, on the national level, we're still working with our stakeholders like Congressman Liu and some of these other fine folks to work on a banking bill so that our retailers and in states that have legalized marijuana, that they can actually use real banks to protect themselves and not have to sit on piles of cash. It gets to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember hearing that some of the companies in Colorado, David, had to have security companies that they hired, whether it was off-duty cops or if it was just because they were carrying so much cash and that they had to, whenever they were transferring money from store to store, they just had to have extra security because it's not, that's an expense they would like to not have to have if they could just bank.
Frankly, it is somewhat ridiculous. And we're working on federal legislation, we're working on banking legislation, and we are working to mainstream and mainline these businesses so that they can become a constructive part, an even more constructive part of our community. And, for example, I have a client in California, they wanted to give a donation. The problems they had in giving a donation to a charity, it was ridiculous. And yet they're sitting on piles of cash and they want to give money back to the community. They wanted to sponsor a baseball team.
Okay.
It's just crazy sometimes.
And so things like that, there's just too much regulatory going on. They can't even sponsor a baseball team. Is that right? Well,
because they had to go, it cost, what was it, $20,000 or something for the uniforms and the fee. And they showed up with cash and, the Little League couldn't take cash and they wanted to have they couldn't use a bank. And so,
we've got
figure that away, but, it's still, I think the message is, Russell, we are here to stay. You're here to stay. We're here to be part of this community. And we're here to build businesses, allow families to grow, employ people. I was talking, I don't know if I was talking to you, but I was having this conversation about one of our lawyers, Scott Field, who, when we got the injunction and he helped us beat back the challenge at the Supreme Court to our injunction, we were invited to a show in Dallas. And I remember Scott telling me as he was sitting there after I'd been on a panel, he said, first time in my life, I'm seeing the practical implications of what I'm doing. I'm seeing the good that I'm doing. I'm seeing the people that are earning their money. I see the families that are supported. I see the community in action. And he was really amazed. And for, someone who's a Republican, it was sort of an aha moment, I think. And I've heard that from more and more and more stakeholders on the other side as some of our veterans communicate with their elected officials. I think they're realizing that it isn't just one segment of the population. This is a community. It's everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And when I ask folks in the space about how they feel about being in this business, as I'm a part of it and from the media side, David, but I still have 8 or 9 contracted employees that we employ throughout any given month, throughout the year. And as we are in production with our products and media services, but it just feels great to be a part of the space. And I often ask companies and people how they feel about it. There really is a sense of community, not just in the local area or the state, but nationally. And the other countries that are making cannabis legal and moving forward with their programs have robust economies. And you'd think with as much as Washington spends, they would allow for this market to continue and prosper. And let's get some better banking laws, like you said, and free up that regulatory, man. We need to embrace the plant.
I totally agree with you.
Well, what do we have? How can folks get in touch with you? Is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we let you get your number out there and let folks call you, because there's got to be a lot of folks that are in retail side now starting to say, hey, what do I do with the inventory that I have purchased for my store now that the feds are saying I can't have this? It's a pretty gray area, David. I think I'd be curious to find out what my attorneys would say to do. And I don't know. I just thought I'd get you to volley one more time on this before we shout out your number and bring that website up.
So I'll just be frank. We have been in touch with stakeholders, with folks, DA, law enforcement, trying to figure out a reasonable approach to deal with the inventory. We haven't gotten there yet, but I think people are at risk in having it. They certainly, if I were them, wouldn't be selling it anymore. I'd be taking it off the shelves. And the question is, how do you dispose of it? Because unfortunately, there are problems here. And, if you don't do the responsible thing, you may very well wind up with a lot more trouble than you bargained for. Well, like I said, we're working on that right now. And I know Andrea's working on that right now. And I know Michelle Donovan, who's another lawyer from Texas, who's up in Detroit, is working on it. And a bunch of us are working on these questions. So I'm happy to talk to people.
Well, I may jump on ask you a few things off air, just because I take advertising dollars from businesses like, that clients that would hire you, do business with us. If this affects their business, this is ultimately going to affect my business. And so, from a publisher standpoint, as a media guy, we're this is kind of, do I turn away money or take money? What about my advertisers, David? This is they're going to affect our little business.
Well, I think there's always going to be an effect on business, but at the same time, if you have operators that are looking to break the law once they know what it is, those are people that probably shouldn't be in the business.
Yeah.
And so, but there are going to be, new people coming into the business. I have people contact me all the time about, how do I do this right? How am I in compliance? How do I reach out to local law enforcement to make sure that we're partnering with them as opposed to trying to play a cat and mouse game with them?
Well, it looks to me like I've just got to make sure that, advertisers, as they want to promote products, they just got to be careful what things they're mentioning, because some of these things are, we've allowed for some things to be stated in their ads. Sometimes I just publish their ad, David, but I think it's important that we just follow the rules and stay within the lines, as they say, and see where things pan out, my friend. How do folks turn and get in touch with you? I see the number on the screen a little bit ago was 512-757-1570. Is that right?
That's my cell phone number. And I'm always available on that unless I'm in court or in meetings. Then my office number is 512-392-5010. That number up there actually goes through a different form, but if you call 512-392-5010, happy to talk with you. My email address is david@sergilaw, or DAVID @SERGILAW.com. Hit me up through LinkedIn, as Andrea said. We're available. Our social media is out there, and we're here to serve our public and our community.
Well, you really are. And I mean, reading that, that suit that you're involved in, that just, it gets under your skin when, law enforcement is, not following they're not following the rules, or not aware of the change in laws. And I think that you do a great service when protecting some of these guys. I'll close on this. I had a guy that had a farm in South Texas, David, and I may have to have him reach out to Jay, but he said that he had got into a minor incursion with his girlfriend. But he has a big farm down in the Rio Grande Valley, and they kept him in jail on a misdemeanor charge from mid-October all the way until January, David, and he didn't get a bond. And I think that they knew that he was a hemp farmer and that he was growing hemp. And it seemed like the regional he said that the local law enforcement unreasonably kept him jailed. But he believed that it was because he was also growing legal hemp in the South Texas area. I don't know if that's entirely the truth, but that's what he told me. And he believed that he was being unjustly held because of what he was doing, with this grow operation.
Well, some people say that it's a valley, and so I'll kind of leave it at that. But,
Yes.
I know people up in North Texas that have had the same issues.
Yeah.
People are, have worked as engineers, that have other lives, that this is a way they're trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Having the best possible legal grow operation they can. And yeah, there are a lot of problems. There's probably another lawsuit we're going to be bringing here in the next month or so. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned my friend Jay McGuire. Jay does a wonderful job of lobbying, of putting together and being kind of the heart and soul of, I think, our community. And, and again, a wonderful guy, a great guy for retailers to work with, a great guy that manufacturers can work with. And, I think that our community needs to come together.
Well, I told this particular farmer that he needed to reach out to Jay at the Texas Hemp Federation, because I know that the work he does and with you, that there is some justice at the end of that rainbow occasionally. And Sergie Law will take on a case like that and go after municipal if you can. And so thank you, though, David. And hey, man, if you ever have anything for me to print, or you want to come on the show and make an announcement, hey, the door's always open over here. So it's good to hear from you on the email the other day, and I appreciate you.
I've got one other announcement. Our hometown hero lawsuit. Former Justice Craig Enoch from the Texas Supreme Court has now signed on as appellant lawyer. So he's working with the appellant team and working with Amanda and some of the other folks that have been on the team. And, we're doing our best to not make it about ego, but about having the best people out there. And people like Amanda Taylor are awesome. Todd Smith at Butler Snow, they're awesome lawyers. Scott Field took the bench. And so, we needed somebody with a little more judicial experience. And we, wound up with former Justice Enoch. And I am thrilled that he's part of the team.
well, it's good to see those guys know what's right, and for for the public sometimes too. And they jump on that side. That's good, man. That's good news, and we'll get something positive going there with that. But let's see, sergielaw.com. Is that the website?
That's correct.
Well, thank you, David, for being a part of the show. This was a doozy here with a double whammy with Andrea and you both on this week. So we really appreciate your insight and input as well. And you can reach out to David at his law firm at 512-392-5010 and give them a call and get yourself some counsel, guys, because these waters are choppy. I may have to get something going with one of these guys myself. I've got some questions off air I want to ask. So thank you, David, for being a part of the show, my friend.
You're welcome, Russell. You got my number. Give me a call.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, there he goes.
Having me.
All right. That's David. And then we had this week also our friend there with Andrea, who comes on frequently here on the program as well. So very glad to have both of them chime on the program and give us some insight. We're in the middle of getting those first rounds of bills filed, and then they'll go into committee here as we get ready. Anyway, great show. Thank you to David Sergie and Andrea Steele. It's been podcast number 113. We'll see you guys next week. Be sure to pick up a copy of the Texas Hemp Reporter magazine. They're out there throughout the state. So thank you for tuning in, and give us a follow and like out there at the Instagram and the Facebook stuff. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. It's the Texas Hemp Show.